My hand closed around cold plastic under the passenger seat. Felt wrong. Definitely not her usual sleek, new phone. This was smaller. An older model? Maybe. What the hell? I was just looking for the damn charging cable she'd sworn she left in my car after I picked her up from her late study session last night. My fingers brushed against the smooth, anonymous black case. Curiosity, sharp and unwelcome, pricked at me. I pulled it out, turning it over in the dim garage light. No branding I recognized immediately. Weird. Just as I was about to try the power button, the door connecting the garage to the house slammed open, making me jump like I'd been shot. Chloe stood there, silhouetted against the bright kitchen light, hands on her hips, face thunderous. Where have you been? I called you like 10 times. Dinner's getting cold. Her voice was sharp, accusatory. Then, her eyes narrowed, flicking down to the object in my hand before snapping back to my face. Seriously, Jake? Going through my stuff now? God, you track my every move. You're so controlling. My mouth went dry. The secret phone, this thing, suddenly felt like a live grenade in my hand. Controlling? Me? The accusation hung in the air, thick and suffocating, buzzing like angry hornets in my ears. Just yesterday, I'd rearranged my entire work schedule because she needed a ride, waited an extra hour because her study group ran late. No questions asked. Last week, I'd spent half my paycheck on those concert tickets she'd casually mentioned wanting, surprising her just to see her smile. Controlling? Is that what supporting someone looks like? Is that what trusting someone implicitly gets you? I was looking for the charger, Chloe, I stammered, feeling ridiculously guilty even though I knew, deep down, that her anger felt disproportionate, defensive. You said you left it. Well, it's not in there, she snapped, avoiding my eyes now, busying herself by checking her reflection in the darkened car window. And stop snooping. I need space to breathe. You're always hovering, always questioning me. It's suffocating. Suffocating. Controlling. The words echoed the theme she'd been subtly weaving into our arguments more and more lately. Little jabs here and there. Complaints about me texting to see when she'd be home. Sighs if I asked who she was going out with. It had started maybe 6 months ago? Around the time she became fiercely protective of her main phone, angling the screen away, taking calls in the other room. Around the time the late nights with the girls and emergency work projects started piling up. I'd chalked it up to stress. Her new paralegal job was demanding, she said. College friends were going through drama, she claimed. I'd tried to be understanding, supportive. I'd swallowed my own anxieties, telling myself I was just being insecure, that I needed to trust her more. After all, we were Jake and Chloe. For years together. Living in this house I'd inherited from my grandpa, making plans. Everyone thought we were perfect. Our Instagram feed was a highlight reel of couple goals, hiking trips, cozy nights in, goofy selfies. I believed in that highlight reel. God, I was such an idiot. She turned back, her expression softening slightly, but her eyes still held a hard edge. Look, I'm sorry, I snapped. I'm just stressed. Work is insane. Can we just eat? And please, just give me some breathing room, okay? Breathing room. While I was holding this secret, I nodded numbly, pocketing the strange phone without thinking. The weight of it felt immense, dragging me down. Yeah, okay. Let's eat. Dinner was agony. Silent, tense. The food tasted like cardboard. Every chew seemed deafeningly loud in the quiet dining room. Chloe picked at her salad, scrolling endlessly on her real phone, the expensive one I'd helped her buy last Christmas. Occasionally she'd glance up, offer a tight, forced smile, then look away again. The woman sitting across from me felt like a stranger. The warmth, the easy laughter that had drawn me to her 4 years ago, felt like a distant memory, a flickering old movie reel. Was I imagining things? Was I the one creating the distance, as she claimed? Was I letting my own insecurities poison something good? The controlling accusation stung precisely because I'd tried so damn hard not to be. My own father had been a jealous, possessive man, and I'd sworn I would never be like him. Was I failing? Later that night, curled up on my side of the bed, pretending to be asleep, I heard her moving around in the dark. The soft click of a drawer opening and closing in the closet. A muffled sigh. Then, silence. I waited until her breathing evened out, deepening into what sounded like genuine sleep. My heart was pounding against my ribs like a trapped bird. The secret phone was still in the pocket of the jeans I'd worn earlier, now tossed over the armchair in the corner. Stealthily, driven by a sickening dread I could no longer ignore, I slipped out of bed. The floorboards creaked under my weight, each sound amplifying my guilt and fear. I retrieved the phone, my fingers trembling as I retreated to the only place I knew she wouldn't follow me in the middle of the night, the cold, sterile guest bathroom. I locked the door, the click echoing unnaturally loud. Sitting on the closed toilet lid, under the harsh fluorescent light, I pressed the power button. It flickered to life. No passcode. My blood ran cold. Why would a phone have no passcode unless you wanted quick, easy access, or had nothing you felt needed protecting? Or maybe the lack of a lock was the protection, making it seem innocuous if found. The home screen was generic. Basic apps. But then I saw it. A messaging app icon I didn't recognize. And the standard text message icon. And a photo gallery. My thumb hovered over the messaging app, a wave of nausea washing over me. Do I really want to know? Can I handle what might be in there? Her accusation echoed again. Controlling. Suffocating. Was this proving her right? But then, the image of her face flashed in my mind. The defensive anger, the averted eyes. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. This wasn't about control. This was about truth. I tapped the standard text message icon first. It opened to a list of conversations. Names I didn't know. Mike W. Jim Buddy Dave. Stephen from Bar. My breath hitched. I clicked on Mike W. The thread went back months. Asterisk Mike W. Hey gorgeous, you free tonight? Winky face, asterisk. Her, maybe. Jake's working late. What did you have in mind? Mike W. Same thing we had in mind last Tuesday? Meet me at the usual spot? 8 p.m. Her, tempting. Okay, but I can't stay out too late. Gotta keep up appearances. Appearances. My world started tilting. Last Tuesday? She'd told me she was having drinks with Sarah from work. I scrolled further, frantically. Plans made and canceled. Flirty banter. Explicit suggestions. References to meetups at hotels, at apartments, his apartment, another man's apartment. I clicked out, hands shaking violently now. Jim Buddy Dave. More of the same. Scheduling workouts that didn't sound like they involved any weights. Pictures exchanged. Nothing explicit that I could see immediately in the previews, but intimate selfies, her smiling flirtatiously. Him shirtless. Jim Buddy Dave. Missing that smile. Her. Miss you too, winky face. Today was rough. Jay was being so needy. Jim Buddy Dave. Forget him. Come let me make you feel better. Her. Wish I could. Stuck here tonight. Rain check? Promise I'll make it worth the wait. Needy. She called me needy to another man. The man she was supposed to be just a gym buddy with. The one she'd laughed off when I'd once, gently asked if there was anything more to their constant texting. Don't be silly, Jake. He's just a friend. God, you're being insecure again, she'd said, rolling her eyes. And I'd believed her. I'd apologized. Then, Stephen from Bar. Newer thread. Met him a few weeks ago? Messages about sneaking away, about how thrilling the secrecy was. Stephen from Bar. Last night was amazing. Her. Shoo. Don't text this number too much. It's my secret one. But yeah, it was. Stephen from Bar. When can I see you again? Can't stop thinking about you. Her. Soon. Be patient. It's complicated. Complicated. The only thing complicated here was the intricate web of lies she was spinning. 3 men. At least 3. And this was just the standard text app. My eyes landed on the other messaging app icon, the one I didn't recognize. Bile rose in my throat. How much deeper did this go? And the accusation. Controlling. It wasn't just a random insult thrown out in anger. It was calculated. It was the shield she used to keep me at arm's length, to make me doubt myself, to stop me from looking too closely while she lived this entire other life. Every late night, every vague excuse, every irritable snap when I asked a simple question, it all clicked into place with horrifying clarity. The stress, the need for space. It wasn't about me suffocating her. It was about her needing room to juggle her multiple deceptions. I felt dizzy sick. The reflection in the bathroom mirror showed a ghost. Pale face, wide, haunted eyes. The man who had believed in fairy tales just hours ago was gone, replaced by this hollow shell. The floor felt like it was falling away beneath me. The phone felt slick with sweat in my trembling hands. The lies, they were staggering. Texts detailing dates, meetups, intimate things, whispers of feelings, with names I didn't recognize. Plural. My mind was racing, a cold fury beginning to replace the gut-wrenching numbness. She called me controlling? She stood there, looking me in the eye, and painted me as the villain, the jailer, while she was the one operating in the shadows, betraying every promise, every shred of trust we ever had. Oh, she had no idea what was coming. This wasn't just a breakup waiting to happen. This wasn't just heartbreak. This felt like a declaration of war. And I had just found her entire battle plan, hidden away, right under my nose. The game had changed, and she didn't even know it yet. I stayed in that bathroom for what felt like hours, the harsh light reflecting off the pristine white tiles, mocking the absolute filth I'd just uncovered. The initial shock, that paralyzing, world-shattering blow, slowly, terrifyingly, began to morph. It wasn't just pain anymore, it was ice. Cold, sharp, crystallizing rage forming in my veins. Every lie she'd ever told me replayed in my mind, now cast in this sickening new light. Every touch, every kiss, every I love you suddenly felt like a violation, a performance for an audience of one, the gullible fool who paid the bills and kept her secrets safe. I forced myself to move, methodically, like a detective uncovering evidence at a crime scene, which, in a way, this was. The crime scene of our relationship. I grabbed my own phone, the real one, the one she knew about, and I started taking pictures, screenshots, everything, every damning text message thread, every suggestive photo in the gallery. And yes, there were plenty I hadn't seen initially, hidden deeper. Pictures of her with these men, smiling, laughing, looking happier than she'd looked with me in months. Pictures they had sent her. Details of hotel bookings confirmation emails stored in a draft folder. Even a couple of short, muffled audio notes. Her giggling, whispering things that made my stomach clench. I documented it all, backing it up to a secure cloud account she knew nothing about, renaming the folder something innocuous like Tax Receipts 2023. The irony wasn't lost on me. By the time the first hint of dawn started filtering through the small bathroom window, I had a comprehensive dossier of her betrayal. My hands had stopped shaking. My breathing was even. The heartbreak was still there, a raw, gaping wound in my chest, but it was overlaid with something else now. Resolve. Cold, hard, unyielding resolve. She had built this house of cards on lies, using my trust as the foundation. It was time to pull the cards out, one by one. I crept back into the bedroom. Chloe was still asleep, looking disturbingly peaceful. Innocent almost. The sight made my stomach churn. I placed the secret phone back in the pocket of the jeans on the chair, exactly where I'd found it. Let her wonder. Let her sweat. Let the paranoia that she projected onto me finally find its rightful owner. I didn't sleep. I showered, dressed for work like any other day, moving on autopilot. When Chloe finally woke up, stretching languidly, she seemed to have forgotten last night's tension. Or perhaps she was just adept at compartmentalizing. "Morning," she mumbled, pulling the covers tighter. "You're up early." "Couldn't sleep," I replied, my voice flat, devoid of emotion. I watched her, waiting. Would she notice the jeans? Would she realize the phone was back? She glanced towards the chair, then did a subtle double-take. Her eyes widened almost imperceptibly for a fraction of a second before her mask slipped back into place. She swung her legs out of bed, deliberately avoiding my gaze, and headed straight for the bathroom. The master bathroom, not the guest bathroom I'd occupied all night. A few minutes later, she came out, dressed in her robe, holding her real phone. She still didn't look at me. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. She busied herself making coffee, her movements jerky, unnatural. I sat at the kitchen counter, watching her back. Finally, unable to stand the silence, or perhaps needing to gauge my mood, she turned. "So, about last night," she began, attempting a conciliatory tone. "I was out of line calling you controlling. Work's just been hell, and I took it out on you. I'm sorry." The apology felt rehearsed, hollow, calculated. Especially now, knowing what I knew. I didn't respond immediately. I just looked at her, letting the silence stretch, letting her squirm. "Jake, did you hear me?" she asked, a hint of irritation creeping back into her voice. "I heard you," I said quietly. "You said you were stressed, that you needed space." Relief flickered across her face. She thought I'd bought it. She thought she was in the clear. "Exactly. Thank you for understanding. I need you to trust me." Trust her. The word was sandpaper on my already raw nerves. I almost laughed. Instead, I stood up. "I'm late for work." I walked towards the door, grabbing my keys. "Wait, aren't you going to kiss me goodbye?" Her voice held a note of manufactured hurt, a tactic I now recognized all too well. I paused at the door, turning slightly. I looked her dead in the eye. "No," I said, my voice devoid of warmth. "I don't think I am." The confusion, the dawning fear in her eyes as I closed the door behind me, was the first small, bitter taste of satisfaction. The drive to work was a blur. My mind was racing, processing the implications. The house was mine, inherited free and clear before I even met her. We weren't married. We had a joint checking account for household expenses, mostly funded by me, and a joint credit card. Otherwise, our finances were separate. Legally, disentangling should be relatively straightforward. Emotionally, that was another story. The first call I made wasn't to a lawyer. It was to my best friend, Mark. I pulled over into a parking lot, the engine idling, and spilled everything. The secret phone, the texts, the pictures, the lies. The controlling accusation. Mark listened patiently, his silence punctuated only by occasional, sharp intakes of breath and muttered curses directed at Chloe. "Dude. Oh my God, dude," he finally said, his voice laced with disbelief and anger on my behalf. I knew something felt off. "Remember I told you I thought I saw her car parked outside that sketchy motel off the highway a few weeks ago? I convinced myself I was mistaken because it was Chloe. Miss Perfect." He paused. "She called you controlling? That's classic gaslighting, man. Flipping the script to make you the bad guy so you don't look at what she's doing. Unbelievable." His validation was like a lifeline. "What do I do, Mark? First, breathe. Second, protect yourself. Change the locks the second she leaves the house today. Transfer your money out of that joint account immediately. Leave just enough for any automatic bills you know are coming out, then close it. Cancel that joint credit card. Document everything you documented again, just in case. And then, lawyer up. Seriously, Jake, don't talk to her without advice. People like that, they get desperate and nasty when cornered." His words solidified my resolve. He was right. This wasn't the time for emotional confrontations. This was the time for strategic action. When I got home that evening, Chloe was already there. The atmosphere was glacial. She tried to act normal, asking about my day, but her eyes kept darting around, filled with an unspoken anxiety. She hadn't found the secret phone missing again yet. Or if she had, she wasn't letting on. She was probably trying to figure out how much I knew, how much I suspected. "We need to talk, Chloe," I said, keeping my voice steady as I walked towards the spare room where I kept my important documents. "Okay," she said cautiously, following me. "About what?" I opened the drawer containing our bank statements and the joint credit card agreement. I pulled them out. "About finances. I think it's time we separated our accounts completely. The joint ones aren't really working." Panic flared in her eyes. "What? Why? Is this because I called you controlling?" "Jake," I said I was sorry. "Don't be like this. This isn't about last night." I lied smoothly, channeling a coldness I didn't know I possessed. "This is about practicality. My financial advisor suggested it. Cleaner that way." I avoided mentioning that my financial advisor was Mark, speaking from experience after his own messy breakup. She started arguing, her voice rising, trying to manipulate, to guilt trip. "After everything I do around here? You want to cut me off financially? Are you serious? What am I supposed to do?" "You have a job, Chloe," I reminded her calmly. "A good one, apparently. The one that keeps you out so late." Her face flushed. She knew she was losing control of the narrative of the situation. She started throwing accusations again, louder this time. "This is about control. You were trying to control me. By controlling the money. I knew it. You're just like your father." That low blow, comparing me to the man whose possessiveness I despised, would have once sent me reeling, made me back down, apologize, do anything to prove her wrong. But now, it bounced right off the icy armor I built around myself overnight. It only strengthened my resolve. "Think what you want," I said, turning my back on her and walking out of the room with the papers. "But the joint account is being closed tomorrow. Make sure you have what you need out of it. And the credit card is being canceled." Her enraged scream followed me down the hallway. I didn't flinch. Later that night, the text started. First, pleading. "Jake, please don't do this. We can work this out. I love you." Then, anger. "You're being cruel. You can't just throw me out financially." Then, threats. "You'll regret this. I'll tell everyone what you're really like." I didn't reply to a single message. I just saved them. More evidence. The next day, while she was at work, I followed Mark's advice. I transferred the majority of the funds from the joint account to my personal one, leaving only a small buffer. I called the bank and initiated the account closure process. I called the credit card company and canceled the joint card. And then, I called a locksmith. The satisfying click of the new deadbolt sliding into place on the front door felt like the first real step towards reclaiming my life. I also made another call, this time to a highly recommended divorce and separation lawyer Mark knew. I explained the situation, the cohabitation, the house ownership, the lack of marriage, and crucially, the evidence of infidelity and deception documented from the secret phone. She called you controlling while maintaining a secret phone with multiple partners? The lawyer, a sharp woman named Ms. Davenport, asked, a note of weary familiarity in her voice. Classic deflection. Okay, Mr. Henderson. Since you aren't married and the house is solely yours pre-relationship, eviction is relatively straightforward, though state laws vary on notice periods. The financial separation is wise. Keep meticulous records. And do not engage with her emotionally. Communicate only when necessary, preferably in writing, about practical matters like her moving her belongings out. The plan was forming. No dramatic, tearful confrontation where she could twist things further. Just clean, decisive action. Sever the financial ties. Secure the home. Give her formal notice to vacate. Present the evidence only if absolutely necessary to counter her lies or demands. As I sat in my now secured house that evening, waiting for Chloe to inevitably return and find her key no longer worked, a strange calm settled over me. The storm was coming, yes. Her reaction would likely be explosive. But I was ready. I had the truth, meticulously documented, stored safely away. Scrolling through the copies of the messages from the secret phone one last time, a particular exchange caught my eye. It wasn't with Mike, Dave, or Steven. It was in a hidden notes app on the phone, password protected with her cat's name, Amateur Hour. It wasn't a conversation. It was a list. A list of my perceived weaknesses. My need for validation. My aversion to conflict. My guilt complex about money. And next to each, notes on how to exploit them. Cry, he always caves. Mention his dad, shuts him down. Threaten to leave, he'll beg me to stay. My blood didn't just run cold, it froze solid. This wasn't just cheating. This was psychological warfare. She hadn't just betrayed me. She had been systematically manipulating me, studying me like an opponent, using my love and trust as weapons against me. The last vestiges of sorrow or doubt evaporated, replaced by a chilling certainty. She hadn't just lost my love or respect. She had made an enemy. And the game she thought she was playing? It was about to get real. The sound of a car pulling into the driveway broke the silence. Showtime. The key scraped against the new lock, a jarring, metallic sound in the quiet evening air. Silence. Then, the scrape again, more frantic this time. Followed by banging. Not polite knocking, but hard, angry fists hammering against the solid wood of the front door. Jake. What the hell is this? Open the door. Jake. Chloe's voice was shrill, laced with confusion quickly curdling into rage. I didn't move from the living room couch. I just sat there, listening, the documented list of my weaknesses and her planned manipulations burning in my mind. Cry, he always caves. Let her bang. Let her scream. The man who caved was gone. Her phone started ringing, my real phone, buzzing on the coffee table. I glanced at the caller ID. Chloe. I silenced it. It rang again immediately. Silenced. Then came the barrage of texts. Open this door right now. What did you do? You can't lock me out. I live here. I'm calling the police. Let her. The house was mine. She had established no formal residency beyond being my girlfriend, and even if she tried to argue tenant rights, the process would start with her finding somewhere else to stay tonight. The police would likely tell her it was a civil matter. Ms. Davenport had prepped me for this possibility. The banging eventually stopped. I heard muffled yelling, pacing on the porch, maybe frantic phone calls. To who? One of the men from the secret phone? Her parents? Friends she tried to poison against me? After about 20 minutes of this, silence fell again. Then, a car door slammed, and an engine roared to life, peeling away down the street. She was gone. For now. The next morning, I found a folded piece of paper shoved under the door. A hastily scribbled note, full of fury, threats, and self-pity. Accusations of cruelty, of being controlling, that old chestnut again, demands for money, for access to her things. It ended with, "You'll hear from my lawyer." Good, I thought. Let the lawyers handle it. It kept me from having to deal with her directly. Ms. Davenport was efficient. She drafted a formal notice to vacate, giving Chloe the legally required 30 days to remove her personal belongings, outlining specific times she could do so with police or a neutral third party present if necessary, and reiterating that any financial claims were baseless given our unmarried status and the clear ownership of assets. We sent it via certified mail to her parents' address, the only other address I knew for sure. Predictably, Chloe's response wasn't through a lawyer initially. It was through her mother. Mrs. Peterson called me, voice dripping with saccharine sympathy that quickly turned venomous when I politely but firmly refused to discuss the matter or let Chloe back into the house unsupervised. How could you do this to her, Jake? After everything she's done for you? Turning that cold house into a home. She told me how controlling you've become, how insecure. Locking her out like some kind of animal. You should be ashamed. This was it. The narrative Chloe had spun. Time for a controlled demolition. Mrs. Peterson, I said, my voice calm and steady, a stark contrast to her screeching. I understand Chloe has given you her version of events. Perhaps you should ask her about the second phone. The secret one. Ask her about Mike W., Jim Buddy Dave, and Stephen from the bar. Ask her about the hotel receipts and the list she kept on how to manipulate my emotions. Silence. Dead silence on the other end of the line. I could almost hear the gears turning, the supportive anger sputtering out, replaced by dawning horror. I don't know what you're talking about, she finally stammered, her voice suddenly small. I have proof, Mrs. Peterson, I continued, pressing the advantage. Screenshots. Timestamps. Everything. Chloe wasn't stressed. She was deceitful. She wasn't being suffocated. She was managing multiple affairs. The controlling behavior she complained about was her projecting her own guilt and creating distance so I wouldn't find out. I'm sorry you've been dragged into this, but those are the facts. She has 30 days to retrieve her belongings by appointment. That's final. I didn't wait for a reply. I ended the call. Let Chloe deal with the fallout from her own family. The next 2 weeks were a tense countdown. Chloe, perhaps after a reality check from her mother or the lack of immediate legal recourse, finally hired a lawyer who contacted Ms. Davenport. There were some initial blustering demands, financial compensation, claims on furniture, all swiftly shut down by Ms. Davenport pointing to the lack of legal basis and hinting at the significant evidence of bad faith conduct we possessed. The opposition quickly softened. The focus shifted to arranging the move-out date. The day itself was surreal. Chloe arrived with her father, who looked profoundly uncomfortable and refused to make eye contact, and 2 movers. As per the agreement, Mark was there with me, a silent, imposing presence ensuring things remained civil. Chloe swept through the house like a whirlwind, grabbing clothes, shoes, makeup, her movements jerky with barely suppressed fury. She avoided looking at me directly, but I could feel her eyes on me sometimes, burning with resentment. The air crackled with unspoken words. Every item she packed felt like another nail in the coffin of the life we were supposed to build together. Seeing her stuff, the little trinkets, the books, the photos of us that she surprisingly took, being boxed up felt strange. Not sad, not anymore. Just final. As the movers were taking the last load out, Chloe lingered by the doorway. Her father was already outside, eager to leave. She turned to face me, her expression a confusing mix of anger, desperation, and something that might have been regret. Are you happy now, Jake? She spat, her voice trembling slightly. You got what you wanted. You threw me out. You ruined everything. Ruined everything? The audacity was breathtaking. I didn't ruin anything, Chloe, I replied, my voice low but firm, ensuring Mark could hear but not wanting to escalate into a shouting match. You did. You made choices. You lied. For months. Maybe longer. You called me controlling while you lived a secret life behind my back. It wasn't like that, she insisted, tears welling up, the tactic from her notes. Cry, he always caves. But the tears looked different now. Less manipulative, more desperate. It was complicated. You weren't paying attention to me. You were always working, always distracted. I was lonely. Lonely. I echoed, a harsh laugh escaping me before I could stop it. Lonely with Mike? Dave? Stephen? Which one cured the loneliness best, Chloe? Or did you need all 3? Was I just the convenient home base, the stable idiot paying the bills while you sought excitement elsewhere? Her face crumpled. The anger drained away, replaced by raw panic and shame. She saw it in my eyes, I knew. I knew everything. The specifics. The names. The sheer scale of it. There was no more room for lies, for manipulation. How did you? She whispered, her voice barely audible. I didn't answer directly. I didn't need to show her the phone, the screenshots. Knowing that I knew was enough. Her carefully constructed world, built on deceit, had crumbled around her. The power dynamic had irrevocably shifted. She stood there, stripped bare of her arrogance, her manipulations useless. You had everything here, I said quietly, the cold fury now tinged with a strange sort of pity. You had honesty. You had loyalty. You had someone who loved you, who trusted you completely. And you threw it all away for what? Cheap thrills? Ego boosts from strangers? You called me controlling, but you were the one completely out of control. Addicted to the secrecy, maybe? To the manipulation? She flinched, tears streaming down her face now, real tears of devastating realization. She looked around the house, the home she'd so carelessly jeopardized, the stability she'd taken for granted. She looked at me, truly looked at me, perhaps seeing the man she betrayed not as an obstacle or a possession, but as a person she had deeply wounded and irrevocably lost. The comfortable life, the security, the unwavering support she'd dismissed as needy or controlling, she finally saw its value, now that it was gone forever. Jake. I made a mistake, she choked out, reaching a hand towards me tentatively. A terrible mistake. Please, can we just talk? Maybe we can fix this. The plea hung in the air. The old Jake, the one she'd meticulously studied and manipulated, might have wavered. Might have seen the pain in her eyes and felt a pang of misplaced responsibility. But that Jake was gone, burned away by the acid of her betrayal. I stepped back, breaking the proximity, shaking my head slowly. The movement was small, but definitive. No, Chloe. There's nothing left to fix. There's nothing left to talk about. I gestured towards the open door where her father was waiting anxiously. Your things are packed. It's time for you to go. My voice wasn't angry anymore. It was just empty, devoid of the passion required for hatred. She had become irrelevant. She stared at me for a long moment, searching my face for any flicker of hope, any sign of weakness she could exploit. Finding none, her shoulders slumped in utter defeat. The fight went out of her. Without another word, she turned and walked out of the house, out of my life. The click of the front door closing behind her this time wasn't jarring or painful. It was quiet. Final. Mark clapped a hand on my shoulder. You okay, man? I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding for months. The tension drained out of me, leaving me exhausted but strangely light. The weight of her secrets, her lies, her presence, it was lifted. Yeah, I said, surprised to find it was true. Yeah, I think I'm going to be. Closing the door on Chloe felt like closing a heavy, morbid book filled with dark, twisted chapters. The air inside my own house suddenly felt cleaner, lighter. I was alone, yes, but the crushing loneliness I'd felt in the relationship was gone. This wasn't emptiness. This felt like space. Space to breathe. Space to heal. Space to start writing my own story, finally free from hers. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, I knew that. But for the first time in a very long time, it felt like my road. It's funny how time works. The days immediately after Chloe left were a blur of quiet emptiness and strange relief. The house felt too big, too silent at first. There were moments, late at night, where the phantom limb of the relationship would ache, a pang of remembered laughter or a shared inside joke catching me off guard. But those moments became fewer and farther between, drowned out by the steady, quiet hum of peace. Fast enough to dull the sharp edges of pain, slow enough that you barely notice the healing until you look back. About 18 months had passed since that final, ugly confrontation on the doorstep, 18 months since the door clicked shut on that chapter of my life. Life didn't magically become perfect, of course. Healing isn't linear. There were days I felt angry, days I felt foolish for trusting so blindly, days I just felt tired. But underneath it all, there was a growing sense of clarity, of reclaiming myself. I threw myself into work, not as an escape this time, but with renewed focus. That graphic design job I had? I took on more challenging projects, built up my portfolio, and eventually landed a senior position with a significant raise. The financial independence felt good, solid, earned. I started hiking again, seriously this time, tackling trails Chloe had always deemed too boring or too strenuous. The physical exertion cleared my head, the stunning vistas reminding me there was a whole world outside the suffocating drama I'd escaped. I reconnected with friends I'd drifted from, realizing how much energy maintaining Chloe's facade and managing her moods had consumed. I heard snippets about Chloe, mostly through Mark, whose cousin was vaguely acquainted with Chloe's sister. The picture painted wasn't pretty. Apparently, the move back to her parents' place wasn't temporary. She'd struggled to find a comparable job, her confidence shaken, her references perhaps not as glowing as she'd imagined. That other men from the secret phone? They evaporated almost instantly once the stability and resources I provided were gone. Mike W. was married, it turned out. Jim Buddy Dave ghosted her when she actually needed something real. Stephen from the bar was just looking for a fling and panicked at the first sign of drama. Karma, perhaps, or just the inevitable consequence of building relationships on foundations of sand. There were a couple of emails that slipped through my spam filter early on, maybe 6 months after she left. Long, rambling messages filled with justifications, blame shifting, you made me feel insecure, and please for another chance, sometimes even hinting at financial difficulties. I read the first one with a flicker of the old pain, then deleted it. The second one, I deleted without reading. I changed my email settings, blocked her number on every platform imaginable. There was absolutely nothing left to say. Her chaos was no longer my problem to solve. Her manipulations no longer had any power over me. She'd made her choices, and now she was living with them. The last I heard, she was still living with her parents, working a retail job, apparently bitter and resentful, complaining to anyone who would listen about how unfairly life, and I, had treated her. The vibrant, manipulative spark she'd carried seemed to have dimmed, replaced by a weary sort of resignation. About a year after the split, I decided I was ready to dip my toes back into the dating pool. Tentatively at first. I was more cautious, my intuition honed by betrayal. I wasn't looking for perfection, just honesty. Someone who knew what they wanted, someone whose words matched their actions. That's when I met Sarah. It wasn't fireworks and drama like with Chloe. It was easy, comfortable. We met through a mutual friend at a barbecue. She's a landscape architect, funny, smart, independent, and refreshingly direct. There are no games, no hidden agendas. When she says she's working late, she's working late. When she says she needs space, it's because she genuinely needs some quiet time, not because she's juggling secret rendezvous. We talk, openly, about everything, expectations, fears, boundaries. The contrast with Chloe is stark and profoundly healing. Building something real, based on mutual respect and transparency, feels infinitely more rewarding than the roller coaster of passion and poison I endured before. One Saturday afternoon, maybe 16 months post-breakup, Sarah and I were browsing in a bookstore downtown. We were laughing about something, my arm casually around her waist, when I saw her. Chloe. She was standing near the entrance, looking thinner, her face drawn, wearing clothes that looked tired. She was alone. Our eyes met across the crowded store for just a split second. There was a flicker of recognition in her eyes, then something else. Shock? Regret? Shame? It was hard to tell. She looked away quickly, turning abruptly and almost bumping into a display stand before hurrying out the door. And the strangest thing happened. I felt nothing. No anger. No residual pain. No triumphant surge of look how much better I'm doing. Just a vague, detached sense of pity, like seeing a ghost from a past life that no longer holds any power. I tightened my arm around Sarah, pulled her closer, and turned back to the bookshelf, the incident forgotten almost immediately. That was the moment I knew I was truly free. She wasn't a wound anymore. She was just a scar, a reminder of a battle fought and won. Looking back now, that whole nightmare, the secret phone, the lies, the gut-wrenching betrayal, the accusation of being controlling that was designed to mask her own out-of-control behavior, it almost feels like it happened to someone else. It broke me, temporarily. It shattered my trust and forced me to confront uncomfortable truths about myself, about naivety, about ignoring red flags because you want to believe the best. But it didn't destroy me. In the end, it forged me into someone stronger, someone more discerning, someone with an unshakable sense of self-worth. It taught me that real control isn't about possessing someone or dictating their actions. It's about controlling your own responses, maintaining your own boundaries, and having the strength to walk away from situations that are toxic and demeaning. It taught me that someone else's lies are a reflection of their character, not your value. And it taught me that sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to close a door, lock it tight, and never look back. My peace now is hard-earned. My boundaries are solid. My life is filled with genuine connections, meaningful work, and quiet joy. And my future, well, it's mine to write. filled with possibilities I couldn't even imagine when I was trapped in her web. And trust me, it looks bright. And that brings us to the end of today's story. Thank you so much for tuning in. I truly hope to see you again for more fascinating tales ahead. If you enjoyed it, please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our next adventure. See you soon.